Maze of Memories has been unleashed,
with reprints that are quite a beast.
Baronne de Fleur and Guardian Chimera.
Invest right now and your wallet'll thank you.
But now is not the time for these rehashed staples.
Instead, see the glory these new cards enable.
From the Labyrinth emerges Sangha of the Thunder, Kazijin, Suijin.
With their powers combined, it's time to explain Gate Guardian. Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons and the fine people over at Dragon Shield. If you want to protect your cards with the strongest scales on the market that even come with their own lore while supporting the channel, use my affiliate link in the description. Alright, so what in the world is Gate Guardian? Well, it's one of those series of cards that are united more by circumstance than by actual mechanics. From episodes 19 to 21 of the Duelist Kingdom arc of the original season, Yugi and Joey had to face off against the mercenary dueling duo of Para and Dox, the Paradox Brothers. Now, you might think that the name is the product of localization being a little silly, but their original names are the Mayq Brothers, which is Labyrinth, and their names are May and Q respectively, so if anything, it's almost too accurate. Their primary cards are the trio of Kazijin, Suijin, and Sangha of the Thunder, all of whom share the same effect. Once while face up on the field as a quick effect during damage calculation on your opponent's turn, if this card is being attacked, you can target the attacking monster to make that monster's attack 0 during damage calculation only. So they basically get to win any fight they want once while on the field, which is really useful if they have to face off against a stronger monster, but they don't really do anything. The only other thing you can do with them while you have all three on the field is tribute them to special summon the mighty Gate Guardian from your hand. Strong, but is basically a vanilla, so it was never more than a meme in paper play. But before we get into how these demonic deities have been reimagined for modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, let's check in on some other iconic monsters that got some retrains, cause the Gate Guardians weren't the only cards used by the Paradox Brothers. Quick note though, a lot of these cards name drop Labyrinth because of the Maze tag duel that was introduced in those episodes, but they are not in and of themselves Labyrinth cards. One is focused on trap cards, one is focused on nostalgia. Now that we've cleared that up, let's begin with Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth, a level 5 dark zombie monster with 1600 attack and 1300 defense. You can discard this card to add a Labyrinth Wall card from your deck to your hand, and at the start of the damage step, if your opponent's monster battles while you control a Labyrinth Wall card, you can banish this card from your grave to destroy that opponent's monster. This is a retrain of Shadow Ghoul, which has all the same stats, but instead gains 100 attack for each monster in the grave instead of this effect. I used to think this card was the bee's knees when it was printed, but well, power creep, folks. In this new context, Labyrinth Shadow Ghoul is a search card for, well, 2 cards, but one of them is a really important field spell that we'll get into later on in the video. And after that, it gives you a bit of a battle trick that can blast a monster that gets a bit too frisky in the battle phase, helping to supplement the attack reduction effect of the element trio. It's not our best card, but it's pretty ghoul. Labyrinth Heavy Tank is a level 7 Dark Machine monster with 2400 attack and defense that you can normal summon without tributing, but it can't attack during the turn it's normal summoned. During your main phase, you can place one of your Sangha of the Thunder, Kazijin or Suijin that is banished or is in your hand or deck face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell card. Then, if you control a Labyrinth Wall card, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls. This card is based on the fusion monster Labyrinth Tank, which is also just a big vanilla. Now, why would you want to pull a Jesse Anderson and crystallize one of your elementals? Once again, we'll touch on that in a bit, but know that it's integral to helping turbo out our new boss monsters. And tacking on a bit of removal if you've got the right setup is the cherry on top. Though the thing that's got me most concerned here is that it's a level 7 that you can normal summon, and considering the Cash Tira craze going on right now, this tech pick will be heavily considered. Okay, now it's time to cover our new extra deck offerings. You'll notice we didn't cover any retrains of the actual core members in that last section, and that's because we sadly didn't get the Ishizu treatment. Instead, we got fusion monsters that show what happens when 2 of the 3 Guardians combine. And if you're familiar with the XYZ unions, you'll know how they work. Instead of using polymerization, you banish the component monsters from your field, which is why putting them in the spell and trap zone is so important. Instead of having to summon big level 7 monsters, you can just plop them into the back row to use for later, because the summoning condition says you banish these cards, not banish these monsters. They also all have a floating effect where, if removed from the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon one of the banished components, so you get a little bit of a refund and are that much closer to summoning another one of those fusions. It's also worded in a way that gets the floating effect even if your opponent kaijus over this, so that's pretty nice. First up is Gate Guardian of Thunder and Wind, a level 9 light thunder monster with 2500 attack and 2200 defense, requiring Sangha of the Thunder and Kazejin as material. During your main phase, you can add a spell or trap card from your deck to your hand that mentions Sangha of the Thunder, Kazejin, and Suijin all at once. Some really nifty support spells and traps got released alongside the new Gate Guardian cards, so being able to access removal or OTK enablers is pretty nice. It's also really funny to imagine how Thunder and Wind move around. Kazejin probably has them floating around, but I like to imagine it walks around on its stubby little arms. It's great. Gate Guardian of Wind and Water is a level 9 wind spellcaster monster with 2450 attack and 2300 defense, requiring Kazejin and Suijin as material. Once per chain, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect on the field as a quick effect, you can just negate that effect, and you can use that effect up to twice per turn. Yeah, it's a double spell or trap negate every single turn. Since it's once per chain, it can be hit by some silly stuff like Forbidden Chalice, Chain 2 Wind and Water's effect, but outside that, you just get to blank 2 potentially really powerful cards that'll keep your opponent from advancing their game plan or stopping yours. It also wins the award of being the most goblin mode of all the Gate Guardian duos. Look at those little arms! Gate Guardian of Water and Thunder is a level 9 water aqua monster with 2550 attack and 2300 defense, requiring Suijin and Sangha of the Thunder as material. Once per chain as a quick effect, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and change its attack to 0 until the end of this turn. And this effect can also be used up to twice per turn. So it's a more proactive version of the base ability of the elementals, that you can use multiple times in a turn, and it's not once while on the field. So you can just blank 2 monsters and run over them while on the offensive, and keep your monsters from getting run over while on the defensive. It's some real shock and awe tactics here. Sangha shocks the opponent, and Suijin goes "Ah!" Okay, that's all the 2 ofs, but we're not done yet. Gate Guardian got in on the action with Gate Guardians Combined, a level 12 Dark Warrior monster with 3750 attack and 3400 defense, requiring Sangha of the Thunder, Kazejin, and Suijin as material. But instead of banishing material we control, we can also banish material from our hand and or grave as well. So it's less XYZ and more ABC. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets any number of cards you control as a quick effect, you can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. And you can use this effect thrice per turn. You'll love to see it. And if this face-up special summoned card and its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon a level 11 or lower Gate Guardian monster from your deck or extra deck, ignoring summoning conditions. So you've got a huge body that answers 3 targeted effects per turn at no cost, and actually destroys what it negates, as opposed to Wind and Water, which just negates. The owner can either get the base Gate Guardian for the same battle stats, just a vanilla version, or any of the duo fusions, which can in turn use their own effects, including their floating ones, to go back into your elementals. And it's arguably even easier to summon this since the materials just need to be in the grave, or in the hand. There's a bit of a flavor fail here though. Despite the source material, there's not an ocean or river in sight. I don't see a pair of docks anywhere. Alright, get ready for those spicy spells and traps. Riryoku Guardian is a normal spell card that you can activate if your life points are lower than your opponent's. Target a monster you control with Gate Guardian in its original name, have your opponent's life points, then that monster gains attack equal to your opponent's life points. And you can banish this card from your grave to add one of your Sangha of the Thunder, Kazejin, or Suijin that is banished or in your deck to your hand. This card is based on Riryoku, a spell card that was actually fairly powerful back in the day, as it let you win basically any battle while dealing direct attack amounts of damage. Or even more if you were clever and fought an even smaller monster. In fact, it's so good that its effect has been recycled in pretty recent monsters, not least of which being Coral Sword Dragon, one of the most prolific OTK enablers. But this is, wow. This card just wants you to unalive your opponent immediately. Like, I have to reiterate this. It halves their life points, then gives you that same amount as attack points and says, hey, go get him, Tiger. You don't even need to hit directly with this. As long as the monster that gained attack could already defeat its target in battle without the boost, or heck, even crash with it, you win the game. And it's funny, this card is actually more anime accurate than the actual Ryuryoku. I'm in stitches. And that's not even all of it. You can actually search this off of Thunder and Wind, making that monster arguably the deck's true win condition, making them both a Ryuryoku to be reckoned with. Ryuryoku means force. Double Attack, Wind and Thunder is a quick play spell card that you can activate if you control a Gate Guardian monster, and it targets a card on the field and destroys it. And during your main phase, like with Ryuryoku Guardian, you can banish this card from your grave to add any member of the element trio from your deck or banished zone to your hand. And that about does it. Like I said previously, this is searchable by Wind and Thunder, which is probably why this is the only signature attack spell of all the duo combinations. On top of the fact that it's a reference to the manga, so that has a big influence on it. Though it would probably be a bit more intimidating if Kazejin didn't look like they were blowing a raspberry. Labyrinth Wall Shadow is a field spell card that keeps monsters from attacking the turn they're summoned, except monsters whose original level is 5 or higher. And once per turn during your main phase, you can place one of your Sangha of the Thunder, Kazejin or Suijin that is banished or in your hand or deck, face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. And at the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can target a monster your opponent controls with less than 1600 attack and destroy it. This is a reference to not just one card, but 3. Labyrinth Wall, the equip spell Magical Labyrinth, and the monster that equip spell summons, Wall Shadow. So like Heavy Tank, this helps put your element trio into your back row to summon your fusions. So the longer both stick on the field, the more of the fusions you can summon. It also helps to stall out attacks, and while it won't stop powerful fusions and synchros, this does give pause to all Xyz and Link monsters. The destruction effect on your opponent's turn is very telegraphed, unfortunately, but it does limit what monsters your opponent can bring into the battle phase. If they have some combo bridges or otherwise random monsters that's under that limit that stick around on the field after the combo is finished, this'll take care of them, falling prey to the menacing Wall Shadow, which just so happens to have 1600 attack. Ain't that neat? I love it when mechanics are full of references so they don't fall flat. Prey of Jiraigumo is a continuous trap card that special summons this card as a normal monster, which comes into play as a level 5 Earth Insect monster with 2100 attack and 100 defense, and is summoned to the same main monster zone as this card's column. And it's also still treated as a trap card. Then, you can destroy a monster your opponent controls in this card's column. It also has the same grave effect as Ryuryoku Guardian and double attack, which means you now have 3 cards that you can use to search out your elementals. Which means if you can get all 3 into the grave, you immediately have access to Gate Guardians combined, though this is easily our most underwhelming card out of the batch. It can only hit a monster in its own column, so it lacks flexibility, but thankfully isn't dependent on having a Gate Guardian monster on the field like double attack does. But that's what happens when flavor takes precedence over function, since a card stepping on Jiraigumo's space is what causes that monster to be destroyed in the manga/anime. It's also why its stats are a bit different than what you remember from the actual monster Jiraigumo. These ones match up more with the manga version. I just pray we get better support for them soon. Alright, so that's all the Gate Guardian cards, but what do we do with them? Well, while we have a bunch of cards that can debuff our opponent, I wouldn't really put us in the control or stun categories. While our monsters are strong and have some really cool ways to keep them safe, I wouldn't count on those protections to keep them safe for the whole duel. We're gonna have to close things out as soon as possible, which means loading up our cards into the grave to use as material to crush our opponent with our combined forces. But what can we play to help them out? The first thing that came to mind for me was Foolish Burial Goods. By sending Guardian Ryuryoku, Double Attack, or Prey of Jiraigumo, you can add any of your element trio to your hand, which cuts down on the number of copies you have to play, which is, ideally, only one of each. Gate Guardians combined is clearly our most powerful of our new monsters, so summoning as many as possible is a must. And thankfully, we've got a card that can easily double our power in Burial from a different dimension. Simply banish all the component cards to summon your first combined, use Burial to put them back into the grave, then banish them again to summon another combined, because for some reason, they didn't put a "you can only summon this monster once per turn this way" restriction on here. Now, the targeting negation effect is still a hard thrice per turn, you don't get more of that, but it does mean you now have 7,500 attack points worth of damage, as well as the possibility of floating into another one of our duos. Or you can overlay them for Zeus, whatever fits your fancy. Since all of our material requirements specifically name monsters, that means we get to play Fusion Deployment. Fusion Conscription also isn't a bad choice, since we only ever really need them in our hand to use as material for our Fusion Monsters summons. Since Kazejin is a level 7 spellcaster monster, this actually opens up the possibility of using Magician Souls, a card that has double value because we can send to grave the spells and traps that search our element trio. Heck, if you pitch 2 of them, you can grab Sangha of the Thunder and Suijin with them. You've already got Kazejin in the grave, so banish all of them and there's a combined right there. As for a silly tech pick, a Kashtira Birth, funnily enough, works with us. It lets you normal summon level 7 monsters, and all the members of the element trio are level 7. It's certainly a better rate than using, say, Tribute Doll. And that's all I have to say about Gate Guardians. I'm not gonna lie, there's some real potential here. With the ability to field monsters that can put up some meaningfully powerful interrupts, this deck is only a competent engine away from dominating a dueling field. Here's hoping that some more support centered around Dungeon Worm and Monster Tamer come out to bolster this strategy and add some rhyme to their reason. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Gate Guardians the real triple threat, or are they not quite there yet? And if you saw these Labyrinth episodes, what was your favorite part? I rewatched those episodes as research for this video, and the fact that Gate Guardian is reportedly in the same class of monster as Exodia just slays me. Also, big shoutouts to Moai of Knowledge. When these cards were released, he just kept sending me more and more info about things he was labbing out with the Archetype. I never would have thought to use Magician Souls on Kazejin to get all the searchers in rotation. Big brain on that Yu-Gi-Oh person, keep an eye on him. And while you're thanking him, don't forget to like this video, subscribe so we can get to that 50k subscriber special for Akiza Explained, and share this video with someone you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode was brought to you in part by Dragon Shield. When you want to protect your cards with the power of dragon scales, get some sweet lore for them, and support the channel, check out my link in the description to get started. This video was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander Green Knight, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Adam Zajdel, Andrew Newman, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Cameron Berg, Chibi Gohan, Colin Todd, Eric, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba331, Great Big Pillock, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Ironic, Iskander711, Jester Designs, John Manji, Jordan, Julius Sneezer, Mana Charge, Marluxia Zagirl, Meteornus, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Rem T Bright, RJ the Jank Monarch, Ruxith Sarani, Sammy Haim, Salen Lucius, Sophie, apparently, the Charizard Flame, the Fresh Prince of Conair, the Wizard Moose and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders Ariel Kersey, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Chaz Ghost, Chris Kessler, Corbinisms, Danny Bound, Drachenwald, Emily, Eva Padilla, Gatorade, H2O, Gatorade, H2O, Johnny sucks, he really sucks, Haro, Herbal D, Jesus Garcia, Kale the Dragon, Carp, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Matt Simmons, Nitromo, Shooting Star 3300, Star-Lord 777, Superpurd, the legendary Raven and Tucker Ordorn, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. I'm only able to continue doing this thanks to the support of these lovely people. So if you'd like to help support the channel, get your name in these credits, and get my videos earlier than anyone else, make sure to check out my link down in the description for my Patreon to see if I have anything you'd like on offer. And if you'd like to see another video on a beloved DM era theme, check out this video I made all about tunes! Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.